Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Mark and this is Mark's Coding Projects. In today's video, we're going to be setting up the clients so that they are configured to interact with our new server upgrades. So if you remember in the last video, we set up this method data transfer. So data transfer is going to be moving data from one client application to the other. We now need to configure the clients so that they can receive that information. So if we come over to here, we're in our client class, and I've been trying to figure out how I want to do this. It's going to be kind of tricky. What I think we're going to do is, the plan is that we'll go through the game state. So, we'll go through the game loop. So if you remember in like video 5 or 6, I kind of explained to you how that the game was stored within this loop. So what I'm thinking is we'll go through this loop, carry on down this loop, and then I think at the end of the loop, before the loop restarts, we will call the input. So I think we're going to call the input method. And so what that means is that we will sit and we will wait to receive a new game board. So we'll make the moves, send the data to the server, wait for our opponent to make their moves, and then receive the game board and then repeat the loop. I think that makes the most sense to me. So it's basically going to hang down the bottom somewhere here on like the last statement. We will have this guessing the new board statement down here. And it's just going to sit and wait there until your opponent's made their move, and then it's going to just repeat the process. And I think that's going to be the best way of doing it. So we have the input method. We coded that. If you check out my input and output tutorial, I can show you how this all works. But for the most part, all it's doing is it's just reading the data that we send to it via this what's going to be the data transfer method to this main class. So this input method is going to read that data in and use it. So what I think we can do, I think it's going to be quite simple actually. If we do set game board and we type in input, I think that'll work. Why? Input, yeah, it returns that. And then we're going to need to return the socket. What's the socket called? Socket. Cool. Brilliant. Okay, so that's what I think needs to happen for the input. And then there's going to be a little bit of sort of some fiddling around to try and determine what we're going to do about who's going first and second. I have a feeling that functionality might need to be moved to the server. So if you remember, like possibly like my first ever video, I talk about how we define who's going first by using a random number generator, and that's done in this SetPlayer method. What I think we're going to need to do is we're going to need to move that SetPlayer method to the server, have an attribute within this class, call it say counter or something, and then we'll pass that value. So we'll allow the server to run the SetPlayer method to generate a counter value. So who's going first, who's going second. We'll then pass that value to the main class, and as a result, we'll assign players who's going first and who's going second. Okay, I think that'll work. So we make counter variable here. There we go. Oh, that's not right. Sick. We'll leave this statement because this is going to be replicated in some capacity. We'll have a counter. Oh, actually, do we want to do that? No, I don't think we need that value. I think what we can do instead is we'll leave it as a local variable within our main class, and instead we'll just move this method to the server. And I think it'll work. I really hope it'll work. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll use our list to determine who it is we're speaking to, as in which client we're speaking to, and then we'll just pick one or two and send it to a random client. So if I move this SetPlayer method to the server class, there we go, and then just pop it down the bottom here. Yeah, do that. So it's just saying that, do we want to import random? And yes, we do. Okay, so we have the SetPlayer method. Oh, that made me jump. I thought someone's I heard someone outside and I got scared. Okay, as part of Save Connections, do we want to say who's going first and who's going second? Is that a smart idea? I think this is the perfect place to do it. So, first what we're going to do is we're going to call our SetPlayer method. Oh, why is that not right? Non-static, not having reference. Oh, it's a static method. Okay, well, we can make it static. That's not a problem. There we go. Cool. So we now have this variable. It's exactly the same as in the main class. It's just in the server class. And there's this error because SetPlayer no longer exists. We'll deal with that later. So what we're going to do is, my thinking is, when we create the constructor, when we call the constructor for the connection container class, we create an object for it. And I'm thinking, what if we build a method in the connection container class, which is like getPlayer, and then when we create this new connection container, we will assign it a player token. And then once we've done that, we'll assign the alternate value to our opponent. So you see we've got connection container SC, so that's the new client, and then we've got connection container X, which is your opponent. So I'm thinking we'll pass one counter value to our to us, so to our client, and then one to our opponent. So if we build just a simple, we're going to make some getters. Oh dear, what's gone on there? Oh, why is that being all fancy? I don't understand. Okay. Oh, stop it. Why? Oh, this is annoying. Can you not do that, please? No. You? Yeah, it's weird when it does that. So what it does is it puts the bracket there, and then it doesn't allow you to carry on typing. So I'm not really sure what that's about. So anyway, what I'm doing at the moment is I'm making the getters and setters for our player. Set this dot player, do that. Cool. And then we'll have a getter, public int player. So what I'm basically saying is we're going to use our connection container object to store our player number rather than storing it on our client, if that makes sense. I think that makes the most sense because it's only with knowledge of the server, so it's only with the access to both client connections that you're able to define who goes first and second. So a client can't say who's going to go first or second because that would require it to have access to the client, which it does, but I just think it makes more sense that the server manages it. So if we make player variable if I can spell ink correctly, which apparently I can't. There we go. And boom. Okay, so all these are working. They just need to be used now. So I'm thinking if we have... Oh, could we put it in the constructor creation? Do I want to put it in the constructor creation? Probably not. What we're gonna do? Well, we're gonna call this. We're gonna call our set in our return, and then I think if we pass. Oh, I know what we'll do. What we'll do is with our, does the main class connects to connection container, or does it not do that? Don't think it does that. So what we'll do is we'll write an output method. We'll write an output method here, and it will just, instead of sending the board or anything, it will just call get player. That's what I think makes a lot of sense. So we have that. So that's our output, the board, and now we're going to have output player. I think I might rename these as well, just because it's going to get a bit confusing. Public void output player. There we go. We can just copy these two lines. Control C. If any of this isn't making sense, by the way, I have tutorials on this in like tutorials number 11 and 12. I think it's 11 and 12, it might be 10 and 11. And they go in more detail about what I'm actually doing. A lot of this, you guys, if you guys have been watching the whole show, which, you know, I hope you have, you'll have seen all this before. The only difference here is in the previous example, we're looping through our game board and we're writing every single element of the game board to our output stream. However, in this example, we're just outputting our get player token. Our get player return value, which is just player. So we're just writing a single integer as opposed to our entire game board. I think that's going to work. What we're going to do now is, I think, the first thing we're going to want to do is output player. That makes the most sense to me. On this side, we're then going to need to make an input player, I want to say. So if I go here, oh dear, private, oh no, private int input player. Oh no, it's gone so wrong. There we go. And we have our parameters and our body. Again, copying this code. We're going to need to pass it to the socket, so the parameters are going to need to be the same. On that, why are you getting upset? Oh, it's going to need to throw an exception. Throws IO exception, cool. And then int reader. Oh, we'll call it counter. Int counter equals reader dot read line. Great. Oh no, you're upset. Yeah. Okay. So read line returns a string. So I need to convert that to an integer using this method. So it's kind of a form of encapsulation, I think. So we surround it by the parseInt method, and this wraps it so that it converts it to an integer. And then we're just going to return counter. There we go. So we then have this input player where we had set player. We're now going to have input player. Oh dear. There we go. Input player, fantastic. Why are you getting upset? Oh, socket. My bad. Okay, and then the last thing that we needed to do was we actually need to generate these values in the first place. So we've got one. What we're going to do is we're going to call our SC object to start off with, and we're going to do SetPlayer. Okay, so this value is going to either be 1 or 2, and if it's 1, we'll pass 1 to our client, and if it's 2, we're going to pass 2 to the client. What we're going to do with our opponent, however, is we're going to have to do a little bit of logic. So if counter equals 1, we're going to do sConnections dot get x. So if you remember, x refers to our opponent. So this loop, if you guys have forgotten, it loops through and then it matches you with an opponent. So in order to access our opponent, it's going to be the x element of the list, if that makes sense. So it's just going to loop through all the elements in the list until it finds one that we can match with. So in order to access it, just simply within this for loop, we can do sConnections.getX. If I did sConnections.getX under normal circumstances, it wouldn't work. It's because of how this for loop is set up. And again, I've got I can link that as well. Dot SetPlayer, and then I'm going to pass it 2. So if we give player 1 to our client, then our opponent is going to be player 2. And if we don't give 1 to our client, then our client is going to be player 2. Therefore, we can be player 1. Our opponent, sorry, can be player 1. I think that's everything. I hope that works. So I'll just cut and then I'll test it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this might be the big day when we can actually play with 2 clients. So fingers crossed. Okay, it's not quite worked according to plan. I'm not gonna lie to you. So when this first client connects, it immediately begins the game state, and that's a problem. I'm going to need to think about how I'm going to manage that. So the connections are being set up fine. The matchups and stuff that we tested from the last video, they're all working. However, this method, this section that we just built, wow, that was good. I'm really pleased that worked so well. Okay, so it's a mishmash of successes. So the first client that joins starts a game with nobody, but nevertheless it starts a game. So that's a problem. It then, stupidly, it then scans the board for zeros. So it's because a player number hasn't been assigned, apparently it's 0 by default. So when it's doing that, oh my god, that's just so dumb. So what it's basically saying is if SetPlayer hasn't been activated, counter is going to be, or our player number basically, and our client class is going to be 0, and it's going to assume that 0 is our counters. So obviously, as you can see on this grid, they are all 0. So you have Mega 1, you have Ultra 1 this game, which obviously we don't want to happen. Player 2, however, player 2 does seem to be waiting for input, which is great. From my understanding, player 2 seems to be stuck on this line here, which is really good. So we have our initial requesting a move at the start, this text here, that comes from, I think, the get move method. So the way I see it, it hasn't looped back round because it's sitting on this set game board. So it's waiting for input, which is great. So it half works. Doesn't completely work, it half works. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I'll just have to, I might cut it, I might trim some bits out, but I'm going to carry on looking at it, and if I can come up with a solution to show you guys, I'll slot it into this video. Okay, so I've come up with a solution. The first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to try a mini little while loop. So what this while loop is, that's, can we do that? No. Okay. In that case, I'm just going to have to rejig the code ever so slightly. So if we move our counter variable up here, we'll set it equal to 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say while counter equals 0. So my thinking is we are going to request input while counter equals 0. We're just going to keep asking for input. Okay, so it's not going to move out of the default. It's not going to set it by default to 0 or anything like that. It's just going to keep saying while it's 0, ask for input. Just keep on asking for input until eventually someone else connects and then we'll have input. And I hope, and I pray that that's going to work. Fingers crossed. So we'll try that first of all. I mean, that looks like it's sitting still to me. This is I've got a good feeling about this. Okay, so we've started the server. We started the first class, and you'll notice it didn't output a request to get a move. So my understanding is this is just looping through. How efficient that is, I don't know. But I think as long as the OutputPlayer method isn't, it might be inefficient. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a look on Task Manager and see how much RAM this is using. But for now, my laptop sounds okay. So I think this is going to be an okay solution. So this is still sitting and not doing anything, which I hope is good. Oh God, I really hope this works. Okay, so our opponent is being assigned player 1. So if we set a token for them, they've placed a token on the board. It hasn't worked. Nice. Sick. That's cool. So they've matched up. That's great. However, it seems to be getting stuck. So what we're going to do now, I don't quite know. Again, I have a theory as to why this isn't working. Okay, so my theory is that I've kind of neglected my output. So I think at some point we need to be writing the game board back to the server in order for our server's input method to work. Where is our server's input method being called from? Is it in here or is it in the connection container? It's in the connection container, get data transfer. So I have a funny feeling. Waiting for input. Did it say that? Yes, it did. Fantastic. Okay. So I have a feeling that it was stuck in this loop, in that this data transfer was never being executed because input was never called. That's what I feel was happening. So we need to be writing our output to our server. And I feel like we can just put that above our set. Hang on, am I in the wrong class? No, I'm not in the wrong. I'm in the right class. Go me. I think we can just put that here. Oh dear, why are you getting upset? Oh. Okay. Okay, we're going to try it again, and hopefully this time it's going to work. Client number 1 is up. Client number 1 is sitting, waiting for a counter assignment. Fantastic. Player 2, you should not be doing that. Okay, cool, good start. So that's the problem we've got. They're both waiting for input. So if I do 3, is this going to print? No. Oh, that's annoying. This is progress though. So the game board is now being written to the server. So that's good. In the previous time that I ran this, there was no what am I trying to say? There was no input. There was no print statement, so the board wasn't printed out to the console of the server. This time it was. So that's progress. I'm just going to have to go back in and have another look at it. Okay, so if we go into the code, it's going to be connection container, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so waiting for input, we get our input. Where are we then going to go from here? Is our input got a print statement on it? Yes, it does. Okay. So what that means is our client test multiple connections, wrote a board to the server picked it up and outputted it. Presumably, it did then write that data to data transfer. So we came over to, where's data transfer? Data transfer is here. Connections dot element number. Okay, so there's a possibility here that there's a problem with it being static. That could be an issue. So I think the first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to see that it is actually reaching data transfer. I'm pretty sure it is. So I'm just going to put in a little console line saying data transfer. There we go. So we made data transfer, and I'm also going to tidy up this input as well because I don't really like it. So I'm going to get rid of these. So we're just going to print out the board on the server side. Okay, we're back on the. Oh wow! Like that, the server goes down and then everything goes down. It makes sense. Okay, server's up. Client's up. Waiting for input. Fantastic. So my understanding is when it says that from the server side at least, it has got up to this here. This is where I think it's up to. You can see that, yeah. So it's waiting to execute data transfer, which is, I think that's fine. That seems fine to me. Okay, I've had a thought. I can see why it could be a problem. Okay, so that's all working fine. If I then write a board, will it get to data transfer? I think it will. Yes, it will. Fantastic. Okay, so we know that we're getting to data transfer. My new working theory is that it shouldn't be waiting for input with only one connection. And I'll explain why. Okay, so my theory is it shouldn't be waiting for input with one connection because it's called an output, it's called an output player. So it's assigned tokens when there's only one client. And I think that's a problem. And it's output a fresh board, which I think is also a problem because you don't necessarily know who you're sending that board to. For now, let me have a quick look in the. Do we create a board from scratch in here? Yeah, okay, so we create a board from scratch. I'm not going to change that, so I'm going to remove this method for now. So if I do a 2 backslashes, it comments it out, so this code isn't going to be run, isn't going to be executed. So I think we need to put the output player in a while loop. Have a little thinkum. A little thinkum. I mean, the first thing that springs out to me is, oh no, don't do that. Can I just put this here? Or does it need to go in the constructor? That's a possibility. Oh my god, I think I've nailed it. Have I nailed it? Have I nailed it? I don't know if I've nailed it. I might have nailed it. I'm not sure. Okay, I've got a plan. I've got a ingenious plan. Oh dear, no, don't do that. So this code is started when we start our thread. Our thread is started here in our okay. So what I'm thinking is, can we call our S connections? So the objects in this list. Yeah, the objects in this list. Can we call them and call SetPlayer? Oh no, SetPlayer is going to require. No, it's not SetPlayer. It's OutputPlayer. Can I do that? Or are you going to get upset? I think you're going to get upset. Why can't I do that? List. Get in. What do you mean get in? What? I don't know why it's getting upset with me. Oh no. Why are you getting angry? Don't get angry. Be happy. Oh, hang on. Oh dear. No, stop it. Stop it. What about if I do sc dot output player? Oh, why have you done that? Why are you not happy? Oh, I'll put it in a try catch. That's not a problem. Okay, so at the moment it seems to me that it's unhappy because we haven't surrounded it in a try catch. Oh, please work. This would be absolutely amazing if this worked. Exception E system.out.print line. Okay, cool. So we do that, and then we need our opponent to also output the player, and we need them to do that before we execute our thread. So I think we're going to move our thread down to the bottom here. We're going to execute that right at the end. I feel like that's a good idea. Yeah. So let's do that right at the end. So we've got a SetPlayer. I don't understand why I can't do sconnections.getX.outputPlayer. I don't understand why that won't work. Why is that a problem? Why are you getting upset with me? Public is public, yeah. Don't understand why there's a difference. Why is there a difference? Don't think there should be a difference. It's not going to work, but I don't quite understand why, so I'm going to have to try and figure this out. Why? Ah, so I can do it. Okay. Actually, if that's gonna work, I don't know what I did for the first one. Oh no, because I set the player down here. Okay, that's fine. What I'll do. So what I was thinking of doing was I was thinking of putting the output player up on the same line as this try catch, but I think instead, I've been a bit of a dum-dum here. What I'm going to do is I am just going to put all of this code down here. There you go, like that. And then if I just do s connections dot get x nice dot output player, Okay. Okay. Oh, I really hope this works. I really hope this works. Please work. Okay. Oh, I'm so nervous. I really want this to work. If this doesn't work, I think I'm just gonna. I'll move it to another tutorial. Make you guys wait. You really mean? Oh, should it be doing that? I don't know. That might be bad. We're gonna see. Okay. You seem to have a problem there. If I write 3, no, it's not gone to you. It has gone to you. Fantastic. So if I write 3 as well. Okay, so both are communicating with the server. Neither are communicating with each other. Oh, that's really annoying. Right, here's what I've decided. I am done for today. I feel like I've faffed on enough. I need to go away and think about it. So what I've set is I'm going to set a challenge. So, for anyone, if people already have this code, then great. If you don't, I'll sort of highlight the key points. And what I think we're going to do is we're going to see who can solve this first. So I'm going to leave it. I'll upload in a couple of days. Hopefully I'll actually have a solution. If not, then that is going to be another riveting video. In the meantime, I challenge you guys to solve this issue. So, to start off with, when a new connection connects to our server, we call this save connection method, and we access the SetPlayer method. Let me just check the recording. Yeah, I'm great. So we access SetPlayer. SetPlayer is just going to assign a value between 1 and 2. If it's 1, you're player 1. If it's 2, you're player 2. We then search our list of connections to find an available opponent for you to play with when you first join the app. Most of this I've covered in a previous tutorial. The new bits we've added this SetPlayer. So we are passing. Ooh. Okay, no, I'm going to leave it. I've already noticed some inefficiencies. I'm going to leave it. So we're passing our counter variable to our connection container. So our connection container is going to store the value of player. So the connection container is going to know whether it's player 1 or player 2. We pass that to it, and then down the bottom, what I've done is I've determined the player number of your opponent. So if we assign our new connection as player 1, then our opponent is going to be player 2, and vice versa. We then have a try statement, which is going to call the OutputPlayer method in our connection class and start up our threads. This works, by the way, having this thread here. This doesn't cause any issues. Well, I don't touch wood. I don't think it does. Pretty sure it doesn't. So our OutputPlayer method is the exact same as our regular output method, which I've discussed in the IO tutorial in like episode 10, I think. It's the same output stream, print writer. All we're going to do is we're going to write out our player number. So it's not going to output the board, it's just the player number. And we do that by using the getter for player. So we set player equal to 1 or 2, and then we're going to return it, and we're going to send it down the output stream to our client. Now, our client is... Oh, have you been a Dumbo? No, I haven't. No, this is all on purpose. So our client is going to create a new value called counter, and that value is going to be set to 0. While that value is 0, we are going to be constantly requesting input from our output stream. So for a long time, there won't be any output because we may not necessarily have an opponent. But once we do have an opponent, the output will come and we will receive a counter value. So the output you saw here will then be inputted into our client program via the input player method. And it's the exact same as this. Oh dear, that's not supposed to be there. There's the game board input method. They're the exact same. Again, tutorial 10 or 11 will explain that in more detail. So once this value is equal to 1 or 2, this loop will terminate and we will enter the main game board state. Oh, you. Oh, you dumbass. I've literally just solved it. Guys, I've solved it. I'm a genius. I am a genius. That's not true. So what I think needs to happen is we're then going to have a little statement down here. I think I've cracked it, guys. In and else. So if counter equals 1. Actually, no, we'll say if counter equals 2. Then what I want it to do is I think we're going to have to move this. We're going to put this here. Oh, we can't do that. Nice. Cool. That's not a problem. So we're going to create a new variable called int board. It's going to be a double integer array. And then while board while board equals oh, I know what we'll do. Okay, so we're gonna make the board. We're gonna make it regular size, and then we're gonna do board 0, 0 equals 10. Okay, so the thinking is, if you are player 2, then you cannot go. You just have to wait until your opponent passes you the board. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to say, okay, well, we have a board. This board is going to be populated. How are we going to do that? Yeah, no, I know how we're going to do that. Okay, that's cool. So we're going to set a marker on this new board. So if while board 0, 0 equals 10, then we know that the input hasn't been received because the board is never going to equal 10. Yeah, I know you have. Get lost. I'm writing, okay? I'm trying to talk. Have a go at me so my while loop's empty. Sorry. Anyway, so our board should never have a 10 in it. None of the elements should ever equal 10. So if it does equal 10, then we know that it's just an invalid board. So while the board is basically, this statement is saying while the board is invalid, we want to wait for our output. So we're going to do board equals output. Why have you done that? This is a problem. This is a big problem. This is, oh dear. No, it's our input that we need, not our output. So our output is what we send to our opponent. Our input is what we receive from our opponent. So we want input. And we're going to pass it the socket. If I can spell socket right. Fantastic. So we're just going to wait for the input to come in. We are then going to call our set game board and we're going to pass board once that's achieved. Is that right or no? Let's see. If I put this on the outside of this loop, is that going to make it better? Yeah, that looks like it'll work to me. Have I spelled board right? I've written it so many times that I might have written it wrong. I'm pretty sure I spelled it right. But anyway, so we're just going to sit and we're going to wait for input, and that means we're going to sit and wait for our opponent to make their move, and then we're going to set the game board. When we then enter our game state, we're going to then get the game board, and we're going to carry on. Oh, I really hope this works. I really, really hope this works. Okay, I'm going to do one more try, and if this doesn't work, then I'm done for today. On a slightly happier note, now that it's sunny, the ice cream van hasn't shown up and spoiled my recording, so that's pretty good. And the last one I had a bit of a disaster with an ice cream van that ruined my audio. I was very upset. Okay, right, come on, please work. Please. Dude, I think it's worked. I think it's worked. I think it's... Oh my god, I think it's worked. Oh my god, I think it's worked. It worked! Yes, it worked. What the hell? Okay, so there's a slight tweak. We need to print the board when we first receive it so that your opponent isn't actually receiving the board. As in, sorry, they can't see it until they make a move. Oh my god, it's working. This is insane. Look, this output came from this client. And then this output came from this. Oh my god, this is so exciting. I'm literally so buzzing right now. This has actually worked. This is insane. Okay, so let me switch it off. And then I need to do one final thing. Okay, so really, really, really quickly, I think what I'm going to do is, does our output print the board? No. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to print the board when we output it. Is that what I want to say? So does our input print the board? Yeah. I don't know. Someone's printing the board and someone's not, and I'm really confused. Get row, print board. Okay, so we're printing the board once we make a move. So I'm thinking if we put a board, if we just put a print board statement at the bottom of the loop so that we can see what our opponent's done, I think this is going to work. Oh my god, literally, I'm so buzzing right now. Game board, sick. Okay. Right, one more try. Please run. Please don't crash now. I will cry. Okay, so server's up. Connection's up. Cool, they're working. This connection's up. Okay, so this one's player one. Fantastic. This one you can't move. Great. They're connected to each other. Cool. 3. He can see his move. Oh, he can't see. No. He can see. Okay, so the server can see it. The client can see the move they've made, but your opponent can't see the board that you have produced. That might just be on the first move, though. So we're going to try it again. 3. Okay, cool. And they can. Okay, so they can see the board that's being sent to them. So it's literally just the first move. So I think if I really, really, really quickly put a print board here, I think that will solve everything. Oh my god, I'm literally so buzzing right now. This is like the best day ever. Oh my god. I'm not even going to cut. Stuff it, I'm not going to cut it. No! Why'd you do that? Okay, server. Oh god, I'm literally bouncing in my chair. So server, client. Boom. Connected. Client 2. Okay, client 2 is player 1. So 3. He can see his move. And he can see the move he's made. I am a genius. Oh my god, I'm literally... No, I'm not a genius. That's a lie. I'm just so excited that this has finally worked. This is insane. Oh my god. We've got like a working server. Oh my god. I need to end this video before I say something stupid. So I hope this has been informative. Sorry if you're not quite as excited as I am. Sucks to be you because I am absolutely buzzing. Um, in the next one, I think we're getting to the point now where we're going to be building the graphical user interface, actually. This may well be the very last server tutorial. Actually, no, tell a lie, no. Next video, we're going to be putting in some fail safes. So if the server goes down, we're going to want to write our connections to this text file so that games can be saved, games can be restored, that kind of thing. So we're going to build a save function in the next tutorial. I hope this has been useful. I hope this has been interesting. Please do consider liking and commenting and subscribing. And I'll see you guys in the next video.